Welcome back to Down the Road. I'm Tyler Axness, filling in yet again for Joel Heitkamp. He will be back here, taking you further down the road into the weekend, Friday here on Beck TV. Got a lot to get to today. In fact, there's been some breaking news earlier today from the Supreme Court of the United States affirming and upholding Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. 7-2 was the decision on the very conservative court. Earl Pomeroy, former North Dakota congressman, going to be joining us talking about that decision. His vote to actually get that in, many point to the fact that that vote might have been the one that changed his electoral position here in North Dakota. So we'll break that down. Also, earlier this week, you had President Joe Biden visiting with Vladimir Putin of Russia. We've got Dakota Reudesill. He is a former national security advisor to the Obama administration, current political science professor at The Ohio State University. He's going to break down how it went. Did the United States get what they wanted? Were they able to at least draw a line in the sand for a very aggressive Russia that we've seen over the last couple of years? And also, I want to wrap up talking about tourism, talking about hospitality. Are we on the rebound? What's it going to take to make your tourist destinations whole? Charley Johnson will be joining us with that. But first, a friend of mine and a friend of the show, Jason Matthews, a political science adjunct instructor at a Bismarck State College, joins us right now on Down the Road. Jason, it's Thursday. It's been a beautiful day. I hope things are treating you well.
It is. They are. Good to be with you.
Well, I'm happy. I always enjoy our conversations because you provide a historical perspective to some of the things that we've got going on right now. We are, a ways into the Biden administration. There's been a lot of good, some questionable, and then some just head-shaking moments, as is with every administration. But after the last few years, something feels a little different right now as far as where we are, not just, I guess, for the United States, but globally. You're seeing the rise of certain things across the world, even right here in America. Just give me a historical perspective of what you see going on right now.
Some people poo-poo the theory of cycles of history, but one thing that when you look at the political history of the United States, there seems to be this 50-year cycle, and that is that you have a presidential election that is a pivotal election that forges a new national consensus, and that consensus holds for about 20 to 30 years, and then it starts to fray, and then in the final decade there, all hell breaks loose. And if you look at the 20th century and you want to learn about the political history of America in the 20th century, you only need to read two presidential biographies, a good biography on FDR and another good biography on Ronald Reagan, because we lived in the age of Roosevelt from 33 to 81, and we've been living in the age of Reagan since 1981. But what's happening is that there's that fraying there, and what we're seeing is the old solutions, the old way of thinking, the old solutions to problems aren't working. And so we're at this inflection point here where we don't know where we're going, what the outcome's going to be, but the old order is giving way to a yet to emerge new order.
Well, and it's not pleasant necessarily being a part of this transition as we figure out what in the world comes next. I've got to say, with the last time I was hosting Down the Road, which was Tuesday, I was talking about how angry people are, and I think some of it comes down to people just outright lying as far as elected officials doing that for power. You got people in media doing it for profit. And I don't need to get into that right now, but the Reagan era, it was one of those about idealism, the shining city atop a hill. Now it just seems, instead of wanting to get things done, it's about getting even with the other side. Is there a point in history that you can point to saying, okay, well, this is how it, we can use what happened at that point to determine maybe a path to cool tempers, get people not so angry at each other? Or is this, we're living through history right now, and we're just going to have to see what comes of it?
Well, unfortunately, a period in time that jumps out into my mind and into the minds of many historians and political scientists are the 1850s, and we know how that ended. Ended with the Civil War in the 1860s. So there's that. But we've always had these periods of contention and acrimony in society. What's really striking to me is President Biden, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, what he's doing right now is he's a throwback to presidents that we've had in the past, Democrat and Republican, and that he's trying to lower the temperature. And what's really standing out to me is his approach, which is he's bringing into the presidency a worldview. And what you see in the rhetoric that he's using is he's evoking China, and he's evoking authoritarian regimes as this contest in the 21st century now between democracies and authoritarians. And the reason that that's interesting is that because up until recently, it was just a given that you can't have free market capitalism without democracy. Well, China has now proven that wrong, and China's out there in the third world showing that there's a Chinese model. Russia's out there proving that there's an alternative model. That's authoritarianism with market capitalism. And Biden is making the argument here that the democracies have to counteract this model that's being put forward by the Chinese and the Russians. And it's informing, and you hear that in his speech, and it's informing his policies, particularly in the infrastructure debate.
Well, earlier this week he was over at NATO, President Biden, and you know what? You had a number of countries come together, and you're right. I mean, they talked about China being a big threat, especially on the eastern side over there, and their growing influence and what they've got there. But you know, there are those on that other side. Vladimir Putin, one, we're going to talk with Dakota Reudesill a little bit later about that summit in Geneva, that are pointing to, well, look what happened with American democracy over the last couple of years here. They point to January 6th, the attempted insurrection. Again, people have been lied to about who was behind that. But the point being, you've got an American president that's out there trying to say, look, democracy is the foundation of which we need to be promoting. And there are people right here at home that are now becoming less inclined to be so supportive of democracy. How do you balance those two, Jason?
Well, we've been down this road before. I think that, the focus has been thus far on voter suppression. I think the bigger issue here is bigger concern is voter nullification. Because if you take a look at a lot of the bills that are being passed across state legislatures around the United States, it takes away power from local election boards in certifying elections, or it's stripping power away from secretaries of state. And I know that a lot of the focus has been on voter suppression, but it's been my observation throughout American history, and this bears out, that the more you tell people they can't do something, they're going to do it. And so the big concern to me is voter nullification. And that is something that's an entirely new area that we're moving into, and a very concerning area at that here in the United States.
You mentioned the infrastructure bill. We'll go on that path, because let's maybe end on an optimistic note for a little bit, because there has been movement there. You've got the president saying, here's my terms, willing to make a deal. I mean, he's been a person of the United States Senate, obviously, for a very long time, understands the ins and outs there. You've got a bipartisan group of U.S. senators coming up with their own. I mean, this is something that infrastructure never used to be a partisan thing. Now everything's partisan, all the way down to your lamp, street light down on Main Street there. They got to get something done. Or, I mean, Joe Manchin is the name that keeps popping up. You've got a Democratic majority. Or do you? It depends on with Senator Manchin out of West Virginia. Talk to me about this. How do we get forward to where we actually have something done?
Well, if you go on Twitter, Joe Manchin's name is a four-letter word amongst progressives. The problem with that is they need to realize that if it wasn't for Joe Manchin, Mitch McConnell would be Senate Majority Leader. I mean, Bernie Sanders can complain about the process, but he wouldn't be chairman of the Senate Budget Committee if it weren't for Joe Manchin. And so Democrats are doing what Democrats always do. It's messy, it's ugly, they argue amongst themselves, and they're trying to work it out. But I think that right now, as we came on the air, there were 11 Republicans that had come out and said they're in favor of a bipartisan deal. But John Tester, who's part of that bipartisan group, said that there's an issue there with the gas tax that he's opposed to, and that he wants that out of there. And they've got a framework there. We'll see if it comes together. But clearly there's the other route that they can take which is reconciliation. But you make a great point. Infrastructure should not be a partisan issue, but we make everything partisan. I mean, Democrats and Republicans drive on the same roads. They use the same broadband. But this is just another example of the hyper-partisan environment that we're in right now. Biden, I don't believe in predictions, especially my own. But I think if Biden can take a bipartisan deal, he's going to take it. and then try to go back later on through the reconciliation route to get more where they would only need 51 Democratic votes with Vice President Harris breaking the tie. We'll see.
Well, for John Tester saying, you know what about that gas tax? Amen, brother, because you know what? I just filled up the truck today, and yeah, it was about $3. I know that gas has been on the rise for quite some time now over the last year. Many factors driving that, but certainly don't want to add the national gas. That's where I think a lot of the fighting is coming from, is the pay-fors. How do you pay for that bridge that's not been updated for 30 years? There's a reluctance. I think the way I read it, that's where the fight is. You've got those that want to, add a surtax on the top and 400,000 above, and then you've got the other side saying, well, let's use basically a user fee and gas tax. I don't know if that's what the reconciliation comes in, but this seems like something that, look, everybody could go home to their districts, including right here in North Dakota, being in the minority, saying, this is what I was able to get done for you, Jason.
Oh, it would be a big political win on both sides, but it brings up an excellent point, and that is going back to the beginning of our conversation about the old solutions no longer meeting the realities. You have the Republican Party that has now made tax cuts part of their religion. It's dogma. You don't argue about that. On the other hand, you have Democrats who are arguing the way they've always argued since the days of Roosevelt about the size and the scope of the federal government and the types of programs. Something's going to have to give in that new consensus here, and that's what we're going to see over the next decade as it shakes out, and how the parties approach these problems.
Jason, we're going to have to leave it there. I always appreciate your insight, especially the historical perspective on it. Living through history right now, a little bit more uncomfortable than I think where we want to be, but we'll chat again soon. All right, you take care.
Looking forward to it.
Jason Matthews, friend of mine, friend of the show here. I tell you what, there was a big decision earlier today. The Supreme Court of the United States upheld the Obamacare. Earl Pomeroy, one of those deciding votes in favor of it becoming law, joins us next.
Howdy, folks. It's a Canline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay-bossing breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Canline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a combo roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Thanks for continuing to ride on down the road with me. I'm Tyler Axness filling in. Joel Heitkamp will be back tomorrow to get you into your weekend. But today was a pretty big day, one that many of us have been waiting on for quite some time. And it was a Supreme Court decision on the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, whatever it is you want to call it. It's all the same. And in fact, 20,000 North Dakotans benefited from it. Your nursing homes benefited from it. Medicaid expansion. Businesses did, in fact, benefit from it. Is it perfect? No. Can it be improved upon? Absolutely. But we are now to the point after 3 court battles over this to where I hope we can get to that moment instead of debating whether or not it should or should not be. One of those individuals that helped craft and create this law that has benefited so many in the state is Earl Pomeroy, former North Dakota congressman. And you know what? Today's a pretty big day for him as well, and he joins us right now on Down the Road. Congressman Pomeroy, talk about today. 7-2. This is a pretty overwhelming decision from a very conservative Supreme Court.
It is a very strong ruling. It basically says those of you suing the 20 attorney generals that wanted to tip over without any replacement this Affordable Care Act, you don't have a case. You do not have even the right to bring this case because you don't have standing to file the action that you want to action. It was, in my opinion, it was a decisive rejection of this yet another effort to tip over the insurance coverage that so many depend upon.
Well, and North Dakota's Attorney General was one of those Attorney Generals that signed our state's name onto it. And you know what? Wouldn't tell us who asked him. I did an open records request as we found out that North Dakota's name was being placed on. Got some emails saying we were asked to join. Never got a response as to who. They claimed that North Dakota didn't have to put any tax dollars in defending their side. That was rejected overwhelmingly. And the rejection, welcome. I know there's people watching us right now that are gritting their teeth as I say that, but I was in the state Senate when we decided to pass Medicaid expansion. Surprised a lot of people in 2013. So for those that are saying, well, this was so bad for North Dakota, we never wanted this, explain how the Republican legislature, for example, took parts of Obamacare, how we continue to have press conferences saying, well, you know, we want to repeal, but we want to keep this without actually having legislation. I hope those arguments are now behind us with this decisive victory, Earl.
Well, I hope so, too. You know, we're not debating whether Medicare is legal or not anymore. We're not debating Medicaid. Some of these programs that help people with their health care are understood to be part of what the federal government does for the people in this country. And with so many in our state, more than 20,000, depending upon their care from the Affordable Care Act. And then you have the protections that we all enjoy. If we have a pre-existing condition, want to get coverage and aren't, we're going to have that protection. We get our kids covered up to age 26. You know, this is a big deal to so many of us in North Dakota. And for the Attorney General to basically pledge North Dakota's name on this lawsuit and say, yeah, we want this tossed out. And then not even have the guts to come on your show or other shows and explain what are they even thinking about, trying to take away this coverage from people. I think it was shameful North Dakota was part of this lawsuit, but the lawsuit was rejected, and I'm very happy that it was. I call it a defeat for the Attorney General, but a victory for the people of North Dakota.
There was one thing that really stood out to me, aside from the fact that our Attorney General has been ducking and dodging about who asked him to join this. I mean, our entire federal delegation was supportive of this. You know, and there were attempts to repeal in Congress, and we had Senator John McCain come on the Senate floor, do the thumbs down to save health insurance for, you know, quite frankly, probably a number of people watching right now here on Beck TV. But when that was done and this lawsuit was entered in, I know that U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer, for example, was asked by national media and asked, okay, well, then what happens next? Paraphrasing, he said, I don't know. I don't know what will happen to the pre-existing conditions. I don't know what will happen to Medicaid expansion, the nursing home. So to have all of that after all these years, we're now about 11 years into this law, and not have a solid foundation as to what comes next should frustrate a number of people watching right now, Earl.
Well, I think it's just completely irresponsible. The thing has been a pretty good political debate all these years, but look, they're shooting with real bullets. They take away this coverage. People suddenly are exposed to not being able to get the health care that they need or afford it if they do have to access medical services, then they are provided. So it was horribly irresponsible to take on the vehicle by which so many are protected against health care costs, give them nothing in return, and try to score this as a political victory. This goes beyond politics. Can't we just say, look, we're in North Dakota, we're here as a community together, and we want to make sure people have these coverages. So when you were in the state Senate and extended that Medicaid, that was really important. And the guy that signed the bill, that was Jack Dalrymple, the governor. And I think that reflects, can't we just let Washington stew in its own foolishness? But our state, we do what we have to do to protect the people that live here. And I really was heartened that we took the steps we did to extend Medicaid, dismayed that North Dakota would be joining these irresponsible group of states and trying to strip it all away. But today I'm happy. Enough about, what went this long fight. For the third time, the Supreme Court has ruled on the Affordable Care Act. I think we took a big step forward today, Tyler, getting Affordable Care Act into the status of Medicare and Medicaid. This is part of the landscape of our country. You're going to have some help with health insurance, and that's what you get for being an American.
Well, and to that point, this is, as you said, the third time that it's been to the Supreme Court. Each time it's been upheld, and each single time, as we've gotten a much more conservative Supreme Court now than what we did, we've added justices on the prevailing side saying, no, this is the law of the land. I hope that we can now have that debate behind us. It is the law. How do we improve it? I mean, there are areas that I think, as I was saying earlier, no law is ever perfect. There are ways in which you can improve, and the Affordable Care Act being one of them, Obamacare, whatever it is that you want to call it. There are steps, I think, that could be made to improve. I know that we took a little bit of that step out of necessity because of a pandemic that we're still trying to combat here. I'm just curious. I mean, you've been involved with this legislation and healthcare in general. What should be considered next to improve access and improve affordability?
You expressed it well. Still not perfect. It really made a big difference for a number of people, but then there were another number of people that were outside of the area where the help was granted for the coverage. And those folks, they felt like this really let them down. And so there was more to do. Now, in that regard, in responding to this COVID tragedy, Congress extended the levels of subsidies so that more people are helped than were before. Now, North Dakota, that made quite a difference. In fact, we have a sign-up that was double the rate before once the new subsidies went into place. So if you haven't checked your Affordable Care Act coverage for a while, they might even be a better deal than when you signed up last year because these new subsidies stay in effect. That is an example, Tyler, what you were speaking of. We can make this better. And I think a big step was taken by allowing a larger group now to enjoy some of the help against the cost of premium, co-pays, deductibles, the things that all families are dealing with. Let's take the Affordable Care Act now that it's more secure than it has been before. We're 11 years in here, so it's getting pretty secure. And let's build it out and make sure that people's health needs, their ability to get coverage when they need it, their ability to afford it if they can't afford it, we're helping them meaningfully with those needs.
Well, and Earl, I want to take this moment for those watching on Beck TV across the state of North Dakota. We have a special period of open enrollment going on right now. In fact, I believe we have a couple of weeks left. So, as former Congressman Pomeroy said, if you think that maybe there's a better deal out there, now's the time to go check. If you don't have insurance right now, go to healthcare.gov. It's there for you, and you know it's the law of the land, and it's going to be there for you for years and years to come. Earl, it was a big day. Congratulations. I know that vote, it was the right thing to do. I agree with you on that. I know it was a tough vote to make at that time, but here it is, 11 years later, being upheld for a third time. Final word goes to you. I got about 30 seconds here.
I'm not in Congress anymore, and maybe the Affordable Care Act vote had something to do with that. but the Affordable Care Act is still the law of the land, and that's infinitely more important. I just couldn't feel better about this important victory, upholding the insurance protections that North Dakotans, the American people, need.
Very good. Earl, I appreciate your time today. Congratulations again. We'll chat again soon, all right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Earl Pomeroy, ladies and gentlemen. Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, 7-2. It's upheld. It's the law of the land. Go get some insurance coverage if you do not have right now. Coming up next, Vladimir Putin, Joe Biden, they were in the same room in Geneva. Let's talk to a national security advisor how it went next.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third
news.
term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks.
Welcome back to Down the Road. Again, I'm Tyler Axness filling in for Joel Heitkamp. He'll be back in studio tomorrow to get you into your weekend. Earlier this week, there's a lot going on internationally. Joe Biden, President of the United States, was starting off the week in NATO at a summit there over in Brussels. And then, you know what, just the other day in Geneva, sat down with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Do you know, if you've been following along, the tensions that have been rising between our two countries? And I wondered if we got anything out of it, if it went the way we intended it. And you know what, there's one person that comes to mind when I ask those questions of myself. His name is Dakota Reudesill, been involved with national security. He is a professor at The Ohio State University, and he joins us right now on Down the Road. Dakota, I always appreciate your time, man. How you been?
Great to be here, as always.
This week, very busy international and national security talked about at all these summits. I know at NATO they focused on both Russia and China. Setting the stage before you go visiting with the president of one of those two in Russia with Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin. I'm curious, you as an observer, you as a former advisor, describe this week your perspective of what transpired for the United States.
Well, I think it was a good week. President Biden has put major priority on repairing relations with our NATO allies, and the NATO summit, I think, accomplished that. There's also the G7 summit, the meeting of the top 7 industrialized democracies in the world. You may recall that for a while after the Cold War, that was called the G8, included Russia, but Russia got kicked out a few years ago because they are really not a democracy anymore. So I think both of those tracks, both the one with NATO and the one with the G7, were both very, very productive and just a more cordial relationship and better working relationship than we saw, during the Trump years. He had a lot of, it was one of the great ironies of the Trump years is that he was so, kind of submissive and solicitous of authoritarians, Vladimir Putin, North Korea's dictator, but then treated America's friends, with condescension and hostility. That's totally changed. So I think that kind of change in the tone and the working relationship is really big. And on the meeting with Putin, it sounds like that probably went as well as it probably could. It sounds like they're, they've now had a first meeting as heads of state, and they're talking. And however bad things are, you always want the top leaders from Washington and Moscow to be talking.
There's a couple of things I want to unpack there that you just talked about. The difference in relationships between the previous administration, this current administration. On a global side, if you're trying to negotiate, work with, a country that has, been on, this ebb and flow as far as our approach to the world's scale. And I'm trying to figure out how I want to put it. I mean, if I'm from another country trying to figure it out, you don't necessarily know who you're working with. Does that have such a profound impact, or was that cleared up all in this 1 week?
Yeah, well, that's just a feature of democracies, right? Is that the people get to select their leaders, and so your leaders turn over. And, most of the democracies have term limits, and they're real. So it comes with the territory. A good sign of an authoritarian state is the leader never turns over. Russia used to have term limits for its president, but Vladimir Putin got rid of those very recently in a constitutional amendment. The president of China, he also, in the last 2 years, has gotten rid of term limits, basically, for China's leader. And what we're seeing in a number of democracies in Europe, Hungary, Turkey, elsewhere, the ones that are kind of backsliding into authoritarianism, you're also seeing the same thing. The same leader sticking around year after year after year. So it's a good thing, for democracies to have turnover in their leaders.
Okay. Well, there, you kind of put me at ease there. As far as, this back and forth, is the dramatic shift in the approach that we had to allies. That's why I was just curious. You mentioned Vladimir Putin. It was good to have these two heads of state meeting and talking with each other. And you know what? I think they probably had a lot to talk about. I got to say, I'm pretty tired, Dakota, every week of seeing in the news that some ransomware attack that started on energy, then it went to our food supply, and then wondering what's next. You've been able to follow along from those conversations. Did we make headway? Did we draw red lines saying, look, you cannot do this? And if so, here's what the response is. Your take on this summit over in Geneva.
Yeah, well, at the summit between Putin and Biden, Biden went in plainly with a desire to tell Putin that things have got to change. As you mentioned, there have been a number of cyber attacks over the past 4 or 5 years. Some have been carried out by the Russian government. We've figured out that they were carried out by the Russian security services. And others, the more recent one that you and I were talking about, on your show about a month ago, by this group called DarkSide. And when you call yourselves DarkSide, doesn't exactly suggest you're, the good guys. But, pretty clear that DarkSide has a lot of Russians involved in it. And, there's certainly going to be, some sort of link up with the Russian state. That's just how it is there. So Biden went in to try to say, look, things have to change. And there are going to be consequences in terms of sanctions, in terms of other things. In terms of cyber attacks by the United States, unless Russia changes its behavior. And I think to his credit, I think Biden tried to get specific in giving Putin a list of 16 specific entities and sectors in America and saying, look, these are critical infrastructure. It's the energy infrastructure, which was recently attached, the water infrastructure, public health, things like that. all areas that Russia's been cyber attacking, and trying to say to him, like, look, we need some rules of the game. You can't attack these. So I think that's a good step, to just get specific with, Russia's leader and just say, here are some red lines and things need to change.
Well, and there was I would say, some agreement to maybe a sign of easing tensions, saying that, look, we're trying to act in good faith here, because I do believe that we allowed some embassies and ambassadors back at their posts, which, if I recall, and unless there was something in between these times, it was former President Obama that kicked out some of these Russian ambassadors because of some hacking going into the election security at that time. That's a sign of good faith, I would take it, as far as, look, let's start here, everybody take a breath, but here's those red lines. And just what does that mean as far as allowing these individuals from America and Russia to be at those respective posts, Dakota?
Yeah, so this is a long-standing feature of diplomacy, going back to the ancient world. Telling ambassadors and representatives of foreign countries, you have to go home, sending them home. It's a signal to that other country that you're really displeased. And some of it is just kind of diplomatic theater, but some of it can have real impact when some of those people who are sent home are really important figures. And in the case of the Russians, in particular, when, as President Obama did, he sent a lot of the Russians from the Russian embassy home, that impacts their ability to do clandestine intelligence operations in the United States. Because even though those people at the massive Russian embassy up on a hill in Washington, D.C., even though they have titles like Deputy Cultural Attaché or Third Agricultural Minister or whatever their titles are, all spies. They work for the SVR, which is the successor to the Cold War KGB. And, that might be their day job, as a liaison with USDA for Russia. But what they really, the vast majority of those people, if not all of them, is they are, they're trying to recruit Americans to spy for Russia. And they're in touch with their spy apparatus. If you've watched the show, The Americans, it gives you a pretty good idea what that looked like in the Cold War. That's still around. So when the U.S. government kicks out Russian diplomats, we're also kicking out their spies. That is a real cost for them. On the other hand, countries also need to talk to each other. And so it's just kind of this balancing act, between those two things.
Okay, I was waiting for the positive of having that decision. I'm like, oh, well, if that's what this all entails, why in the world to say, come on back, folks, we'll have you this time. But okay, we do have to talk, which is something I certainly advocate for. I've got less than a minute. I know we talked a lot about Russia. There's a lot of eyes over on China as their growing influence as well. If you had to pick between the two, which one's the more immediate national security concern that we should have as America?
Wow, that's a tough question. Yeah, I mean, I'd really kind of put them on par. Both of them represent a massive cyber threat to the United States. They're very sophisticated. They've had a big impact. And there's a growing risk, frankly, of hot kinetic conflict with both Russia and China. China, that's, the growing Chinese threat to Taiwan. And their ability to say the South China Sea is theirs and it's not an international waterway. And then in Russia, Russia is really trying to get gobble up more of Ukraine. They've got designs on Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, which are now in NATO. So, things have not been trending in a great direction for over a decade with both of those countries. So I wouldn't rank one over the other, but these are perilous times.
And on that sour note, that's where we're going to have to leave it this time, Dakota. I always appreciate your insight on the international scale, I should say. You take care. We'll chat again soon, all right?
Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, Dakota Reudesill, ladies and gentlemen. Next, let's talk about tourism. Let's talk about all those outdoors activities. Are they coming back? Tourism, hospitality. They had a rough year. Many of us did. Let's talk about it with one of our experts, Charley Johnson, next year on Down the Road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over for any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money. So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty. You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity. How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
As we continue on down the road here today on Beck TV, I'm Tyler Axness. You know what? We're continuing on the road to recovery for many of the businesses after the last year that we've had closures, stipulations as capacity. You had events canceled, some of them coming roaring back this year. And you know what? It's been a good summer and a good spring for that, but I'm curious where we are because there's a pretty deep hole we're trying to climb out of, especially when it comes to tourism and when it comes to hospitality. Workers put aside, as I said, events closed. Where are we at? That's question. And when I have that question, I think about Charley Johnson, who has some of those answers, and he joins us right now here in the studio. Charley is the president and CEO of the Fargo-Moorhead Convention and Vistors Bureau. Appreciate you coming in.
Of course, Tyler. Happy to be here.
Things, you know what? I've been out on the road for my radio show quite a bit, and because last year I couldn't. And I said, I want to get back out and reintroduce people to what we have here. That's something you do on a day-to-day basis. Place has been pretty full, I've thought. You know, we've had a good turnout. Are we recovering pretty good here?
Yeah, I think the recovery is pretty well underway. I'm pleasantly surprised. I think things are coming back faster than we thought they would. Last week, ever since the shutdown happened, I started buying our occupancy reports on a weekly basis instead of just monthly. And last week, occupancy in Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo was like 69.4%, which is a new post-COVID high. I also went back and looked. It actually was higher than it was in May of 1919. You know, the last pre-COVID year, and in fact, revenue was even a little bit higher than that month. So things are coming back. Rates at hotels are still a little down, but we have a lot of activity. I think a lot of people want to get out and travel, and but also we've had a lot of sports activity. Sports tourism is a really big thing for us, and there've been a lot of tournaments. We had a decent youth hockey season. You know, they didn't fill as many room nights as normal, but they still did like 8,000, between 8,000 and 10,000 probably across the three cities. Normally that would be like 14,000 or 15,000.
Oh wow! Okay.
But still that was good. So that kept us going, and now things are just happening even faster. And our visitor center, where people stop in, we're pretty much back to levels of 2 years ago. And that's good. So, yeah, I think things are coming along. I think the hospitality industry obviously was devastated by this. Fortunately, they ended up getting help through federal CARES dollars and other programs funneled through the state, both states, actually. And so that helped them stay afloat, most of them. We lost a few. But I think things are coming back. I think their biggest problem now is workforce, I think, which is true for everybody.
That's what I was actually going to get to. Workforce across the board, whether it's construction, whether it's bartender, a server. I mean,
hotel employees.
What are you hearing from your members out there as to the driving factor? Because you hear, well, it's because people are getting enhanced unemployment. Is that part of it? I mean, is there more to it? Did people take that last year that was so tough, especially in your industry, and decide to change career paths? What are you hearing?
Well, I think it's all of the above. I'm not sure the ending of the extra unemployment, this week? It ends this week?
Yeah, I think, the in 19th? Fact, it might be done right now.
Yeah, I think this is the last week of it. I'm not sure that's the silver bullet a lot of people thought it was going to be. I think there's a combination of things. I think some people who worked in those industries maybe found other jobs and moved on. Said, I'm not going to be in something that's as volatile as that when you don't know what's happening. Some of them have come back, but I think the other thing is that people have to understand is you have to pay them a living wage. You know, that's probably the biggest key. I don't think, I don't like to get into the political weeds of it, but I think the common sense says that if you stop giving someone unemployment that barely allows them to get by and then expect them to go to work for the same or less money, that doesn't really solve your problem. They're still going to be looking for other jobs that pay them better. So I think part of it is there's going to be probably some inflation with regard to wages. And we'll just have to suck it up.
And we've seen that, and I'm willing to pay more for a burger or a beer if that's what it comes down to.
Me too.
The one thing that I've heard on my radio show when I bring that up, and I understand because in the hospitality, one of the hardest hit, trying to pay people more to come back after a year, which you probably didn't make much of a.
It's a challenge.
It's that perfect storm in your world right now, and
I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that I think it's unrealistic to expect people to take a job that doesn't pay them enough to live on. And I think so. And I think most of the businesses in the community are figuring that out. And I think you'll see some better wages because they have to have the people. You can't stay open without people to work. So
this is
it's part of the economic cycle.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. This is going to be probably a difficult question because it's one that's been posed to me. And this isn't, I think, isolated to Fargo. I mean, I know we got people in Williston watching right now as well. Exponential growth. Every other couple of months we had a new restaurant or we had a new thing coming in. Is there a point in which maybe we've overbuilt? Is that part of this equation as well? And I know it's difficult to say as somebody that advocates tourism.
Well, there's always a certain amount of churn in hospitality businesses anyway, and I think the COVID shutdown probably increased the volume or the speed of that. So there's no good answer to that question. I think all businesses, when they come into a market or decide to open a new business in a market, generally do a lot of research, and they've done their business model. They have a business model that says this is what's going to work, and generally it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, everybody, nothing is perfect. Nothing works out exactly the way you think it's going to. So I think that's just a constant thing that happens all the time. It was just exacerbated by the fact that we had this shutdown that caused more places to close up for a while. But I think the ones that got through it are going to do well. I think there's a pretty big pent-up demand, as you're seeing. You say you're out and about. I see it when I'm out and about. It's still a good idea to make reservations just because you want to be able to get in, That's
call ahead.
The way that works, So I think things are coming along, and it's good.
Well, and that bottom line is, in North Dakota, at least, and parts of Minnesota probably that are able to watch as well, in eastern Montana, are we recovering, do you think, more quickly than maybe other parts of the country, or is this across the United States?
Well, that's hard for me to say because I really only pay attention locally. I know what's been predicted nationally in our industry, hotels and hospitality, hotels in particular, is that we won't get back to 2019 levels until maybe 2022 or 23. I think that's pessimistic based on what we're seeing now. Year to date, the hotel revenue 2021, I just checked this out. So through May, first 5 months of the year, through May, our revenue, hotel revenue is like 16% off of 2019. Well, that's not bad, you know, considering where we were last year. We were down 40%. So if we could just hold that, I think that would exceed expectations for this year. I budgeted for like 80% revenue, so I'm happy to see that because I think it's going to be better than that. So if it gets up to 85 to 90%, I think that exceeds most people's expectations and may mean that we'll get back to pre-pandemic levels by sometime in 22, which would be great.
That would be great.
And then grow from there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we're ending on some good news. That we, maybe
there is good news coming.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a lot of things happening in Fargo and Moorhead. I mean, just go downtown. The construction didn't stop.
No,
you know, there's a new hotel opening. There are 2 new buildings coming up that are going to have new retail and people living in them. So, there's, you know, like I say, it's a churn. But generally speaking, things are on the uptick.
Very good. Charlie, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was a bit of good news for a Thursday evening.
It's nice to have some good news once in a while, right? This year especially.
Some of it's been dour that we've been talking about, so I appreciate having some lighthearted stuff.
Yeah.
Charlie, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Charley Johnson, there you go. Some good news. Hospitality is coming back. Book your reservations. Get on down to wherever it is you want to bring the family or friends. We're back. We're coming back. And in fact, I'm coming back right after this. Some final thoughts on the Affordable Care Act decision by the Supreme Court earlier on today. Stick around.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you could pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
I want to thank our guests, and I want to thank you for sticking around on this final stretch of Down the Road. Again, I'm Tyler Axness. Joel Heitkamp back tomorrow. I'll be back with you in a couple of weeks here, take you on down another stretch of road here. Today was a big day, and I know that 11 years ago, there was a lot of people upset about the passage of the Affordable Care Act. Since then, the popularity of that program has grown, right here in North Dakota as well. And I know it's not the perfect plan, as I've been saying throughout today's show, but it's a start. 20,000 North Dakotans received insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. I was in the state Senate when we passed Medicaid expansion, the biggest lobbying push I've seen from all corners of North Dakota. You had patient advocates, you had patients in need of that Medicaid expansion, you had nursing homes, you had rural hospitals. Many of you are watching me in rural North Dakota right now. Think about if that hospital had closed because Medicaid expansion dollars from the federal government weren't there. Businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, Greater North Dakota Chamber of Commerce came out and advocated for the passage of that. All the while, it was all that partisan bickering going on about this law. And over the last 11 years, you've had at least 3 Supreme Court challenges to overturn the entire thing. And every single one of them have been rejected. It's been the law of the land, ladies and gentlemen, and it's going to continue to be the law of the land until Congress decides to do something. And what I hope that they do is to make those improvements that many of you watching right now, you've lived it. Premiums, yes, they have at times gone up. They were going up before the Affordable Care Act. There's provisions in this law that allow it to be more affordable for some, but not everybody. I understand that. Deductibles, out-of-pocket costs, there can be more done, but that has not been the focus over the last 11 years. It's been about just repealing. Get rid of it. That's not going to be the case. Came close, but it's not. And now today, by a 7-2 vote, the Supreme Court said, no, this is here. This will not be repealed. So Congress, Kelly Armstrong, John Hoeven, Kevin Kramer, the one individual that said, I don't know what happens if this goes out, get to work. Make those improvements. You heard from a former congressman saying this shouldn't be partisan, and yet here it has been this entire time. It's been a driving factor for a couple of things: donations and electoral politics. Meanwhile, we've got people out there that were scared for their lives that they were going to lose insurance because of a Supreme Court decision that the Attorney General Wayne Stedham signed on to. Wayne Stedham lost, North Dakota won. Folks, that's it for me today. I'm Tyler Axness. It's been good riding with you. Take care until next time.